Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears. Thank you for joining me today. I'm super excited to be joining Trinity Stamps in their 4th birthday release called Sweet Summer Celebration. The projects I'm making today are part of their blog hop for this release, and there are so many fabulous card designers participating in the blog hop, sharing inspiration for the release. If you are interested in joining along in the hop for a chance to win a gift certificate to the Trinity Stamp store, check out the description box of this video for more information. I'll also post more information on my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. This release is packed with so many great products that I'm going to start this summer celebration making 5 popsicle cards. I'll be showing you so many fun techniques for popsicle cards, including a popsicle shaker, popsicle stencil cards, popsicles with patterned paper, and adding texture and dimension to your cards. I have several more videos coming up on my channel showcasing other fabulous products in the Trinity Stamps Sweet Summer Celebration, so be sure to click the subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified when I release those videos. Also, if you're interested in any of the products that I use in my video today, check the description box for product links. So let's go ahead and get started. So this first product that I'm showing you is the Popsicle Standalone Die Set. It includes 8 dies. You have this die here, which is the topping if you want to include a topping for your popsicle. It also has the stick for the popsicle, and then there is a sentiment that says, "You're the coolest." And here is the Popsicle stencil. This is a layering stencil, and this stencil actually coordinates with the die that I just showed on my screen. So once you stencil the popsicle, you can actually die cut it out using the popsicle die. It fits perfectly. So I'm going to be demonstrating how to use this stencil, and it is a layering stencil. So you have the positive and the negative pieces, and I'll show you exactly how to use this on my cards today. I will also be incorporating the Simply Sentimental Birthday stamp set, which is a stamp set, very large stamp set, that will give you several ways of writing happy birthday in different fonts and styles and phrases. So you can see there's some large words there that say birthday, and then there are some smaller words that you can put together, such as wishing you a happy birthday or sorry I forgot your birthday. And there is also a die set that will die cut out these sentiments. I will also be incorporating the modern embossed alphabet die set. There's also a numbers die set very similar to this, which I do not have. So this is the alphabet one, and the letters are about 1 inch tall. So I just wanted to take out the ruler just so you can see how tall these are, and they are pretty thick letters. I really love these, and I'm going to be incorporating them on one of my cards today. There are also so many fun embellishments included in this release, and this is just a few of what Trinity Stamps has available in their store. And these embellishments, if you're not familiar with Trinity Stamps embellishments, they actually come in these awesome cases. I know some companies, they come in little Ziploc bags, but these actually come in these cases, which I really, really love. So I'm just going to open up some of these to show you what these look like. They are clay embellishments, so they are a mix of sprinkles and round circles. And they come in so many different colors. And I thought that these would be perfect for my popsicle cards in this video, as well as for toppings on ice cream cone cards and cupcake cards, which I have videos coming up on those as well. And of course, they would be perfect for shaker cards too. This set is really cool. I love the colors, number one. There are so many different sprinkles in here, but there are also these large beads. So I thought that was pretty unique. This is the Sugared Soiree set, and then this chocolate one with the rainbow dots is called Sugared Surprise. They also have these watermelon-shaped embellishment mix. There's some watermelons mixed with some round green, light and dark green circles, and then here are some strawberries, and there are also some hearts here. These are called Peachy Keen, and actually these aren't new. They actually have been on their website in addition to the strawberries. And then I also have the Pickup Stick tool from Trinity Stamps. You can actually pick up your embellishments with it. It has a wax tip, and it's just easy to pick up the embellishments and put them on your cards. So this tool is not new to Trinity Stamps. However, it is new to me, so I wanted to share it with you. I will also be incorporating this brand new paper pad. It's called Double Scoop. It is a 6x6 paper pad and double-sided. You get 2 of each sheet, and I just love the designs on this paper pad. Look at all of these designs, perfect for your ice cream or your cupcake or your popsicle cards. I do have a video coming up where I'm going to be using some of this paper on some cupcake and ice cream cards. Look at this frosting. And then here is a multi-layer cake, and look at that beautiful pattern on the reverse. You also have a pattern here that is for a cone. Love that. And then some more papers. So this paper is brand new and it is available in their store. So once again, links to all these products will be listed down in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get started making some cards. My first card is going to be a Slimline card, and I'm going to be incorporating this die set. This is the Slimline Burst Builder die set, which I die cut out of 2 different yellow cardstock colors. I have a darker yellow and a lighter yellow. I also cut down a white piece of cardstock to 8.5 by 3.5, and I'm going to glue down all of these sunburst pieces onto the white cardstock. So you can see that the die, it just cuts the actual sunburst out of the paper. And then if you take the actual white panel and start in the corner and just position everything lined up at that corner of that 8.5 by 3.5 inch piece of cardstock, you will end up with a beautiful sunburst pattern on your card. Now, I am inking up all of the edges with some squeezed lemonade on the lighter yellow cardstock, and then the Fossilized Amber Distress Oxide ink on the darker yellow cardstock. I just wanted to have a little bit of texture there and depth on those layers, so that's why I'm adding the ink. So I'm going to do that for each piece, so ink up the edges and then add the pieces to that white panel. So by die cutting that Slimline Burst Builder die set one time, it will give you half of a Slimline card panel. So if you die cut it twice, you'll be able to fill both sides of that Slimline card panel. So when I'm finished, you can see it does fill up the whole thing, and as I turn this panel over, it has a little bit of overhang. So I'm just gonna flip this over and put it in my paper trimmer and just trim off the cardstock that is extending beyond the edges of that card panel. And I'll do that on all 4 sides, and again, the final size of that panel is 8.5 by 3.5 inches. So now that my card background is complete, I'm going to go ahead and take out this Popsicle die set, and I'm just using my wire cutters to cut away all of the inside pieces on the die set so that each one of these dies is an individual die and not all clustered together. So let me go ahead and show you what this die set consists of. You have this piece which will cut out just a solid popsicle shape. Then you have this piece which will cut out if you wanted to add a shadow to the popsicle. It also cuts the inside pieces. And then if you wanted to add a topping to your popsicle, you have that die, and then you have the 2 dies there for the stick, one that has the texture with the wood grain and then the shadow. So I'm going to use a piece of the pattern paper from the Double Scoop paper pad, and I die cut the large popsicle die, and then I just took some craft cardstock and die cut the stick, and I'm just inking up that popsicle stick with some brown ink just to add some more texture and dimension to that popsicle stick. Now I'm taking the modern embossed alphabet die set, and I die cut the word cool out of some pattern paper. And I also stamped out the sentiment. It says, wishing you a, and then I'm going to say cool with the alphabet dies and then the word birthday. So now I'm just going to start putting this together, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down the word cool. I am overlapping the letters just a little bit. And then I'll add the word birthday right underneath that. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down the popsicle starting with the stick. I go ahead and glue on the blue paper that I cut out for the topping and add that to the popsicle. Next, I'll glue down the popsicle and then the wishing you a sentiment at the top. And then I'll add that to a Slimline card base. That Slimline card base measures 8.5 by 3.5 inches. Now for my favorite part of making this card, I'm going to add the toppings to this popsicle. So I couldn't decide if I wanted to use the sugared soiree embellishment mix or the sugared surprise embellishment mix. So I'm going to set those aside for now, and I'm going to take out some of my pops of color. These are the sky blue color, and these are scrapbook.com pops of color. And this is just a liquid embellishment, very similar to Nuvo Drops. And I'm adding it all over the top of the popsicle. Now I chose a color that matches the cardstock underneath. That way if I have any areas that aren't covered, I don't have a different color cardstock showing within it. So the blue cardstock matches the blue pops of color. And then I just took a paintbrush and just spread it around, and now I'm adding some sprinkles. I love this. So the pops of color is actually going to hold as like an adhesive to hold these sprinkles in. So I'm adding some of the chocolate colored ones, and then I'm adding some of the dots to give it a little color. So you can see I ended up going with the sugared surprise mix. I just thought that the darker sprinkles added a little bit of a nicer tone against the light blue topping. So I'm just kind of positioning them and making sure that they're fully adhered inside that pops of color just by pressing them into the pops of color with my finger. And then I let that dry for 24 hours and it hardened up, and all of those sprinkles are not going anywhere. So there is my final card for card 1. Now moving on to my second card, I'm actually going to be making a watermelon popsicle using this watermelon paper. So I die cut that watermelon paper with the popsicle die, and then I'm taking that same popsicle die and just die cutting the very bottom part of that popsicle on some white cardstock, because this piece I am going to add some ink. So I'm starting with the cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide ink and inking up the bottom of that white piece of cardstock. I'm not going to ink up the whole piece of white cardstock because I want some white still to show. My whole intent here is to make this look like the rind of the watermelon. So now I'm coming in with some Mowed Lawn ink and just inking up the edges just to add a little bit of contrasting greens there on the edges, and then just blending that out with the cracked pistachio. Next, I'll add that green part to the bottom of my watermelon, and I just love the look of this. So you have the green rind followed by some of the white, and then you actually have the watermelon, and I just think that looks so real, especially with that pattern paper. And then I cut a piece of this green striped pattern paper from the Love Dani paper pad. I cut that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to adhere that right on to my card base. And my card base is an A2 size card base, and it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so that pattern paper fits perfectly on top. Next, I adhere a piece of white cardstock that I cut to 3 1/2 by 5 1/2 inches. I add that to the center of the card front, and then I'm going to add the watermelon popsicle right on front in that white area. So I'm starting with the stick, and then I'll add the popsicle right on top of that. And then I also die cut the die that comes with the popsicle die set. The die says "You're the coolest." Die cut that out of some black cardstock. I did put some double-sided adhesive on the back of that cardstock so that it turns it into a sticker when I die cut it. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the sentiment right to the front of the popsicle. Next, I'm going to take the black peppercorn embellishment mix. I'm going to take just the sprinkles out of that, and I'm going to add some to the top of my watermelon. And I'm actually just going to take my Bearly Arts glue and just add each one with glue right to the top. I love how this card turned out. It is super fun, and it just reminds me of summer. So this card is complete, and moving on to my third card, I am going to be using the Love Dani paper pad again. I'm going to pick a piece of pattern paper here. I think I'm going to go with the purple hearts. And this card is going to be a popsicle shaped card, which those are always so much fun to make. So I'm going to die cut the popsicle die out of this pattern paper. Next, I took the layering die and I die cut 6 pieces of dark purple cardstock because this is also going to be a shaker card, and I need several layers to build up the wall in order to put my shakers inside. So I'm going to take one layer and I'm going to attach it to a piece of acetate. So I have a piece of acetate there, which I'm just going to glue this top layer on. This is going to be the top layering piece on my card. Just going to hold it down with an acrylic block. And then once I know that that's really adhered to the acetate, I can go ahead and use my scissors and just trim around that die to cut the rest of the acetate off. So this is going to be the top layer for my card with the acetate. I'm going to set that aside, and then all of these other 5 pieces of the purple die cut, I am going to glue together. So I'm going to glue one to the actual background layer, and then I'm going to glue the remaining pieces to the top. So in total, I have 5 of the dark purple layering pieces glued together to the top of that shadow layer, which is cut out of that pattern paper, and then that 6th piece is glued down to the acetate. So once all of those are glued down, I can now take my shaker pieces and add them to the center of this die cut. I'm using the Sugared Soiree embellishment mix. I'm also going to add a few sequins in here from my stash just to add a little bit of sparkle. Now I do need to mention that I added those 5 layers of cardstock to build the walls up on my shaker so that the embellishment moves around when this is complete. You may need to add additional layers of cardstock depending on how thick your shaker bits are. The 5 layers of cardstock worked for me. Once I have all the shaker pieces inside, I'm going to add glue to the top of my die cut piece and then add the piece that has the acetate right on top of that to secure all of those pieces inside. And there's my shaker. So now I'm going to add a topping to my popsicle. I'm going to take the topping die and die cut it out of some light purple cardstock. I'm putting some scrapbook.com adhesive tape on my cardstock, and I'm actually going to take this die and die cut the cardstock so the adhesive is in front. I want the adhesive part of that die cut piece to be on top, so now I'm going to remove the backing and I'm looking at the top of my die cut, and I'm going to take some glitter. This is a very fine glitter, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top. I have a color that matches the cardstock in purple, and I also have a crystal type of glitter, and I'm just going to sprinkle that on top. And then once I have the glitter that I want, I'm going to go ahead and take my finger and I'm going to burnish it into the cardstock. Next, I'm going to add glue to the back side of this, and then I'm going to add it to the top of the popsicle shaker. I die cut the popsicle stick out of some craft cardstock, and I'm just inking up the edges with some brown ink just to add what looks like might be some texture to that cardstock. And I'm going to glue the layering piece onto the shadow layer. And then after I glue that together, I'm going to add that popsicle stick to the bottom of the popsicle. I die cut the sentiment "You're the Coolest" out of some peach and yellow cardstock, and then I just glued that to the top of my popsicle shaker. And of course I have to add some sprinkles to the top, so I'm taking some Glossy Accents, which is just a clear liquid glue, and I'm adding some to the top of the popsicle, and then I'm going to place some of the sprinkles right on top of the glue. And that is going to dry clear, and all of those sprinkles will be adhered to the top. Now it's time to make the card base, so I'm taking a piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of white cardstock. I'm folding it in half. And after I fold it, I'm going to take the popsicle die. It's the large die in the set. I'm going to place it on the cardstock so that the left edge of the die is slightly to the left of the crease in the cardstock. And then I'm going to die cut that. And when that comes out of the die cutting machine, you get your card base. I also die cut that same die out of a single piece of white cardstock because I'm going to add it to the back of my shaker just so that the back of the shaker is completely white. I didn't want to have the edge of the pattern paper extending on the edge of the die. I wanted it to have a very clean look on the back. So I'm going to go ahead now and add my glue to the back of my shaker piece, and then I'll add that to the card base. So I'm just going to line it up and then just press it down really well. And now my popsicle shaped shaker card is now complete. I just love making shaped cards, and I think this die set is perfect for a fun summer popsicle card. For my next two cards, I'm going to be using the layered popsicle stencil from Trinity Stamps. So I have a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock that I cut down to 4 7/8 by 6 7/8, and I'm taking the inside pieces of the popsicle stencil and I'm just placing them on my cardstock to give me an idea of where I want this popsicle to be once I stencil the popsicle. So with that popsicle mask on my card front, I can then take the large stencil and put some magnets down to hold it down and then remove the mask from underneath. So again, this will ensure that when I add ink to the stencil that my popsicle is actually centered between the top and bottom edges of my card front. So here I'm just masking off the sides of the stencil and any open parts at the bottom there, just so that I don't get ink on the sides or bottom of the cardstock. And then I'm going to add some ink colors. So I'm using some scrapbook.com inks in Pink Flamingo, Lantern Light, and Oasis. So I'm just adding 3 different colors, and then once I have the colors, I'll come back in with, for example, the Lantern Light, which is the yellow, and then blend that in with the Oasis, and then I'll come back in with the Pink Flamingo and blend that in with the Lantern Light. Next, I'm going to remove the stencil and then I'm going to add it towards the bottom of that popsicle so that I can ink up the popsicle stick. I use some of the mint tape to mask off the edges of the stencil just so I don't get ink on the white part of the cardstock. So I used the leather ink from scrapbook.com for the first layer, and now I'm removing the stencil and lining up the textured part of that popsicle stick. Again, I'm going to mask off the sides, and then for the textured part, I'm going to come in with a darker ink, and this ink is called Dark Chocolate, and it will add those wood lines on that popsicle stick. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and remove everything, and there is my popsicle on my card front. So this is a fun way of creating a 1-layer card. Next, I'm going to take the mask part of the popsicle stencil. I added some pixie spray off camera. The pixie spray acts as an adhesive so that I can add it directly to the popsicle that I've already inked up. I'm going to do the same thing with the stick. So I added some pixie spray and now I'm adding it directly to the card front so you can see how it's not going to go anywhere. It's actually stuck on there, but it's not permanent. It will come right off. So here I'm using the Trinity Stamps Layered Confetti Stencil. It is a 2-layer stencil and I wanted to have some confetti all around this popsicle. So I'm going to add the stencil right on top of the cardstock with the mask. And by using that mask shape for the popsicle, it ensures that I don't get any of this confetti on top of the popsicle. It will just put it on the outside. So the colors that I'm using here are the same colors that I used on the popsicle. So I'm using the Pink Flamingo, the Lantern Light, and the Oasis. And once I finish the first stencil, I'll remove it and then just add the second layer and continue inking up. There's no specific order. I just wanted different colors all over to have a lot of confetti. Now I do want to point out that this stencil, it is heavier on the confetti on the left hand side than on the right hand side. So what I did is I just flipped that stencil over and I just added it to my card front, just add some more magnets here to hold it down, and then I inked up some more there on the right hand side. So once I finish with the confetti stencil, I'll remove it, and next I'll remove the mask from the popsicle. And I just love how this turned out. So you can see that there's no confetti on top of that popsicle. Thank goodness for that mask. So I'm going to be using the Simply Sentimental Birthday stamp set. I have the large word birthday going right across the middle of a card. And then I have some smaller text there that says wishing you a happy right above the word birthday. So my sentiment is wishing you a happy birthday and just inking that up with some black ink and trying to get a really dark impression, so I do ink that up a few different times. So this is a perfect 1-layer card. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to a 5x7 card base. I chose to use pink cardstock for my card base just to have more bright colors on this card so that it really pops. And I just love the way that looks. So for my next card, I am using the Popsicle stencil again, only this time I'm just going to stencil it up on this Bristol Smooth cardstock 3 different times. I don't need to worry about centering it on a card front because I'm actually going to be using the corresponding dies to die cut this stencil. So I'm using a couple inks here from scrapbook.com. For the pink colors on this pink popsicle, I'm using Pink Flamingo, Candy Shop Pink, and Mixed Berry. So I'm just putting some of these inks in a little bit of a different pattern. I'm not going from light to dark or dark to light. I'm just kind of putting them in spots all over because I wanted to have just dark spots and some light spots all mixed together on the popsicle. Okay, so once I have the popsicle shape stenciled, I'm going to remove the stencil and add the lines. And for the lines, that's where the mixed berry comes in. This is my darkest shade of pink, and I'm adding the dark to the lines for the center. Next, I'm going to go with my second popsicle shape. So I'm going to add the stencil, the cardstock, and this time I'm going to go with some purple. So I start out with the soft lavender, which is a very, very light purple, and I put that on the popsicle stencil, and then I come in with the Parisian purple, which is the second level purple in the violet group of inks. And then the last purple that I'm going to use is going to be for the 2 lines in the middle, and that will be the crushed velvet. I do want to point out that it doesn't matter if you are masking off the edges of the stencil, because in this particular project, I'm actually going to use the dies to die cut the popsicle shape out of the cardstock. So it doesn't matter if you get ink along the edges like I did there up at the top, because you're going to die cut that popsicle shape out. Now I did put a mask at the bottom part of that popsicle just because I knew that I was going to use that part of the cardstock to stencil another popsicle. So my last popsicle is going to be yellow, so I'm using the Lantern Light as my light and then the Rubber Ducky as my midtone, and I'm just going to blend those two together. And then for the dark with the 2 lines, I am going to use the Honeycomb, and I'm just going to add that to the middle. And I love how these stencils are so easy to use. You can pretty much make popsicles in any colors you choose, just depending on what inks you have. So here I'm just going to ink up the popsicle stick. So I'm starting with the leather, and then I'm going to layer on the layering part of that stencil right on top, and I'm going to use the dark chocolate. And I'm going to make 3 of these. So since I know that I'm going to die cut these popsicles, I don't have to worry about making sure that that stick is hooked to the popsicle when I stencil it out. I can actually stencil out the sticks by themselves and then just die cut these pieces individually. So I'll die cut the 3 popsicles and I will die cut the sticks. I actually did a few more because I wasn't liking the colors. I actually had some darker inks that I was experimenting with off camera, and I liked the lighter ones instead. So here I'm going to go ahead and add all 3 of these popsicles to the front of a card. This card is going to be a 5x7 card. So I cut down a piece of white cardstock to measure 5x7, and I'm going to glue all of these popsicles on to the front of this card front. The popsicle stick will extend beyond the edge of the card front, and that's okay. I am going to snip the bottom part off of the card front once I have everything glued down. I thought it would be super cute to add some googly eyes to these popsicles, so I'm going to go ahead and glue them down. And then I'm going to take a black marker and add a smiley face to each one of the popsicles. I'm also going to take a Copic marker and add some rosy cheeks. And for the sentiment, I die cut the word pop out of some of the pattern paper from the double scoop paper pad. And then I die cut "You're the coolest" with some black cardstock. And I'm just adding that there to the top of the card. So I've got "You're the coolest," and then pop is going to go at a diagonal. And that pop is from the Modern Embossed Alphabet Die set. So next I'll add this to a 5x7 card base, and my card is complete. I would love to hear which card is your favorite, so leave me a comment down below. Remember that supplies used in this video will be down in the description box and on my blog. And if you're interested in joining along in the blog hop, you'll find more information there as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.